What if I told you your financial problems are all in your head? I wouldn't believe you. Our friend Jace Wilsey with Wilsey Asset Management is here. What do you mean it's all in my head?
I don't know if it's all in the head, but it's definitely a large part of people's problems, I'd say, in their heads. There's some other issues.
Okay, so you're saying that it's a lot going on in our head is about money?
There's a lot going on in your head that's about money, and I think the psychology is a lot of times it kind of tricks you into doing things that maybe you shouldn't be doing.
Uh-oh. Like?
So the big thing I always kind of look at is people have this concept of what I call loss aversion. So they'd rather really avoid losses and forego gains. And it's a great study that was done by a behavioral economist, and he looked at saying, okay, if you took on risk and you had an 80% chance of success, a lot of people said they would do it. But if you phrased the question a different way and said if you took on risk and you had a 20% chance of failure, a lot of people don't do it. It's the same math. It's the same exact outcome, but it's the way that that question is phrased that gets people to avoid risk. And I'm not saying you go out and you need to buy Bitcoin or try and find the next NVIDIA or do things like that, but a lot of times people, they won't take risk when it comes to investing because they're so scared of failure. Now you need to understand the difference between what I call risk and volatility. Risk is investing in companies that could go bankrupt down the road. Volatility is investing in good, sound businesses that, yeah, they're going to go up and down in the short term.
Okay, but how do you change that narrative in your head? I mean, many of us either we learned it from our parents, we learned it along the way to be a certain way with money. How does that change?
I really think it comes down to education and just trying to understand things. And if you're more aware of that concept and how things are sold, because this is what really concerns me as well, is this is how a lot of things are sold in the financial industry. A lot of times annuity sales or different products are sold based off people's emotions and fears. And it oftentimes doesn't work out. So I think step one is obviously being aware that your psychology has such a big impact on, I think, how you're sold many times. So being more aware of that will lead to greater success. And also, I think the education of investing is so important, and understanding and being realistic with your outcomes.
Okay, being realistic, and I know our friends who are watching right now agree, the older that one gets, there's definitely financial worry that comes with that. You're a kid, you don't even think about, you don't know what a mortgage is or any of that stuff. And the other day, my son was looking over my shoulder, like looking at the credit card bill. I'm like, do you want me to show you how much we've spent on Roblox? And they ran down the hall like lightning speed. Yep. The older we get, then I have people like my dad that, past retirement, that they're really worried about the last few years, of their lives. So how do you navigate through all of that?
It really comes down to, again, kind of understanding the numbers. And this is such a hard part because we're such emotional beings. And at our firm, we have a saying, we say, no emotions, just results. Because when it comes to finances, you shouldn't be emotional. And it's such a hard thing. But by looking at numbers aren't emotional. You need to look at the actual numbers behind what is going on with your investments, with your personal finances. That can help remove part of that emotional component. And I'll tell you, it is very hard, but it takes time to learn, and it takes time to go through that process.
Okay, you're going to tell us about financial therapy, and because I also want to bring up that we know that even finances and the way that we manage them is like one of the top 3 things, if not like the top 2 things that couples usually argue about.
Yeah, and I mean, a big thing is that we look at, and it's so funny, we have a financial planner at our office, and he says a lot of times he feels like a therapist because there's so much that's coming in that is not necessarily about the finances, but it revolves around the finances, if that makes sense.
Right, yeah.
So kind of dealing with these financial problems, and again, a mathematical way is so important. But a lot of times, I'll tell you, I think it's a shame, a lot of people will pick advisors based off emotions, or they'll pick investments based off emotions. And that's where they get burned down the line. Like the whole concept of what I call risk tolerance, which is where people say, oh, I'm low risk. We don't do that at our firm. Our whole belief is that we want to find good investments and educate people why we're investing in those things. You shouldn't be letting your emotions dictate how you're investing or how you're planning for your financial future. But unfortunately, that's what happens a lot of the times with people's personal finances.
Yeah, unless you find somebody and say, here's my money, go invest it the way it is, I don't want to get involved.
Well, you got to find somebody that you trust and that aligns with, again, your philosophies and understanding why they're doing what they're doing.
Like Chase is one of them. Thank you. Thank you for being here. I feel like I need to go take like a therapy financial course.
Hey, make sure you find the right therapist.
Yeah, I know. I know, right? Thank you. Good to see you.